Hello guys, welcome to Grammar and Writing Lesson 14. Let's get started. The first word is allude. Allude. So this means to refer to something indirectly or casually. So you're talking about something, but you're not going to mention exactly what you're talking about. You're just referring to it. You're talking about it casually without really saying what you're talking about. For example, the clerk's letter of resignation only alluded to his illness as a reason for leaving. So a letter of resignation is when you're leaving your job, you are resigning. So a letter of resignation formally states that you are leaving your job. So this person, a clerk, is someone who kind of like a secretary, takes care of like paperwork and things like that. So they're leaving their job, and the part of the reason they're leaving would be an illness, but they don't actually come out and say, I'm leaving my job because I'm sick. They just kind of refer to that a little bit. Maybe they say due to recent circumstances or something like that, but they don't actually say it's because they're sick. So that's alluding to something, talking about something without actually saying it. Now we have a very similar word. So our first word was allude with an A and a double L. Allude. Now this word is with an E and only one L. Elude. Elude. So it's pronounced E like its first letter. Elude. And it means to escape by trickery, speed, or cleverness. So elude is to escape by trickery, speed, or cleverness. For example, the fugitive eluded the police for many days. So the person is trying to escape from the police, run away, hide, whatever the case may be. They eluded the police. They were able to stay away from them for many days. All right, fill the blank with the correct vocabulary word. Number 1. Sometimes a mouse can blank a cat for a long time. Number 2. Although they don't call him a liar, they blank to his dishonesty. Number 3. Will the rabbit be able to blank the fox? And number 4. If you refer to something indirectly, you blank to it. All right, pause the video if you need to. The first one, sometimes a mouse can elude a cat for a long time. So they're escaping, they're staying away from the cat. Number 2, although they don't call him a liar, they allude to his dishonesty. So they don't directly call him a liar, but they are saying indirectly that that's what he is. Will the rabbit be able to elude the fox? So to stay away from it. If you refer to something indirectly, you allude to it. In grammar, we've been talking about capitalization, so we've mentioned four, four rules that we are using for capitalization. So let's start with rule 1. I want you to write down one rule of capitalization, the first rule that we've learned. So write that down, see what you think it is. Rule 1 that we've learned. If you don't get the right rule that I'm about to reveal, but it is a rule that we've learned, just hang on to it. It might be one of the rules farther down. All right, so the first rule that we talked about was to capitalize proper nouns. We want to capitalize proper nouns. So that's any noun that's the name of something, that talks about something specifically, it needs to be capitalized. That word and all of its important words that make up its name. All right, rule number 2. Write down what you think that one is. It's a little bigger. See, there's a farther space between rule 2 and rule 3 than there was between rule 1 and rule 2. That means there's 2 lines. So it's a little longer, this rule. All right, this is to capitalize the first word of every sentence. The first word of every sentence requires a capital letter. So that's something that you should be very familiar with by now. All right, rule 3, the pronoun I is always capitalized, no matter where it is placed in the sentence. And finally, rule number 4, what do you think that is? The first words of each line in most poetry are usually capitalized. So those are the rules we've talked about. Capitalize proper nouns, capitalize the first word of every sentence, capitalize the pronoun I, and capitalize the first word in each line of most poetry. Okay, hopefully you got all those. Let's talk about capitalization. Rule number 5. Titles require special capitalization. So we're talking about titles of things like books, ships, plays, movies. There are some rules that go with this rule. The first one, capitalize the first and last words of a title. So rule number 1, when you have the title of something, no matter what the word is, no matter what type of word it is, you capitalize the first and the last word. Number 2, capitalize all verbs. So any verb in the title has to be capitalized. So action or being words doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's the little being verb is, it still needs to be capitalized in the title because it's a verb. Number 3, capitalize all other words in the title except certain short words. And we'll talk about what those are in just a minute. So capitalize all other words in the title except certain short words. And number 4, capitalize prepositions with 5 or more letters, such as outside, underneath, between, through, inside, things like that. So if it has 5 or more letters and it's a preposition, you need to capitalize it. These are some short words that we do not capitalize. A, and, the, but, or, for, nor. So unless these are located first or last in the title, because remember, according to Rule 1, we always capitalize the first and last words in the title, these words and prepositions with 4 letters or fewer don't need a capital letter. So all of these are articles and conjunctions, these words in the box, but unless they are located first or last in the title, these words as well as prepositions that have 4 letters or less don't need a capital letter. So let's look at some examples. First of all, Alice in Wonderland. So Alice is your first word. Wonderland is your last word. So those are capitalized. Now this word in is a preposition, and it only has 2 letters, so it is not capitalized. The Fall of the House of Usher. So we capitalize the here, even though it's one of our short words. Why do we capitalize it? We capitalize it because it's the first word in the title, so it has to be capital. Look here, it's not capitalized because it's not in the first or last position in your title. Then you have the word of, you have it twice. These are not capitalized because they're prepositions with only 2 letters. Antony and Cleopatra. So we have Antony and Cleopatra that are both capitalized. They are the first and last words. They're important words. But and is not. It's just a little word that doesn't get capitalized. Our last example is the song America the Beautiful. So we capitalize America and beautiful because they come first and last, but not the because it's just a little unimportant word. All right. Rule number 6 for capitalization. We capitalize the first letter of the first word in each level of an outline. So the first letter of the first word in each level of the outline. So here's an example of an outline, talking about the works of William Shakespeare. So the tragedies by William Shakespeare, that would be his plays and books that ended very sadly, and the comedies by William Shakespeare, that means they ended happily. So in each level, you need to capitalize the first letter of the first word. So tragedies needs to be capitalized, Antony, Julius, comedies, the, because they come at the beginning of each level. Also, in addition to that, we capitalize the, in the first two levels of an outline, we capitalize those labels for that level. Remember, we start with the Roman numeral I, and so that's automatically capitalized. And then in the next level, we have capital A, capital B. Then you'll go to 1 and 2, then you'll go to lowercase a and b, but that's for a different lesson. Right? So capitalize the first letter of the first word in each level of the outline. Also capitalize the first two labels for the outline. Rule number 7, capitalize the first word of a dialogue quotation. So when you are talking about somebody who is speaking, you need to capitalize the first letter of what they're saying. For example, Professor Falstaff inquired, "Have you finished reading The Old Curiosity Shop?" So here, the first letter of the first word in his quotation is have. So even though your sentence already started with professor, have is the word that starts his quotation, his dialogue. The dialogue is the person speaking. So you need to capitalize that H in have. Nell replied, "Of course not. It's 1,000 pages long." What's the first word of what Nell is saying? Of. So we capitalize the O in of. All right, let's get some practice. So start with King Lear. This is a play. What would you capitalize for King Lear? The Two Gentlemen of Verona. The old man cried, "She was always cheerful, very cheerful." Start with those. We'll have one more slide of practice, but I want you to start with these, capitalize these, and I'm going to give you the answers in just a second. Okay, ready for the answers? Letter A. You capitalize the K and the L because they are the first and last words, and they're important words. B, the Two Gentlemen of Verona. You capitalize the because it's the first word. Two because it's an important word. Gentleman because again it's an important word. We do not capitalize of because it's a two-letter preposition. And we capitalize Verona because it's the last word. Letter C. We capitalize the because it's the first word in our sentence. We capitalize she because it's the first word of the quotation. All right, letter D, we have an outline. I, novels by Jane Austen. A, Pride and Prejudice. B, Sense and Sensibility. I, novels by Charles Dickens. A, The Old Curiosity Shop. B, Bleak House. What would you capitalize? Go ahead and write that down now. Pause your video because I'm going to give you the answers right now. I, novels by Jane Austen. We capitalize the I because that's the label of our outline. We always capitalize that. Then we capitalize novels because it begins the outline. And we capitalize Jane Austen because it's her name, so it's a proper noun. Next level, we capitalize the A because it's the second level of our outline. We always capitalize the first two levels. We capitalize Pride and Prejudice for two reasons. Because it's the title of the book. We also capitalize it because we also capitalize Pride because it begins our outline. We capitalize the B and then Sense and Sensibilities for the same reason. I needs to be capitalized because of the level it is in the outline. We also capitalize the N in novels, as well as Charles Dickens. N in novels because it begins the outline, and we capitalize Charles Dickens because it's a proper noun. We capitalize A because of the level in the outline. We also capitalize the Old Curiosity and Shop because it is a title of the book. And B, we capitalize for being the level of the outline. We also capitalize Bleak House for being the title of the book, and bleak as well because it is the first word in that level of the outline. Okay, so your homework for your grammar portion is to do more practice lesson 20, so page 89. So find that in your grammar section. More practice, lesson 20, page 89. All right, so we also have writing today. Like I said, I'm going to stop doing writing and English together, but to kind of finish everything out, we have today, and we also have Monday that you have to do writing and English on the same day. So occasionally that will happen because it's short weeks and you need to get a little bit more practice. Okay, so let's go on to writing. We're talking about coherence through logical order. So we've been talking about unity. Everything goes together in your paragraph. It makes sense. It has a reason for being in the paragraph. It contributes to the paragraph. But now we're talking about coherence. A coherent paragraph has all the details connected to one another in a logical order. So that means that the order makes sense, that you're stating all of your information. Coherent paragraphs clearly lead the reader from one idea to the next. So you understand why you go from one sentence to the next. It might be a process that you're following. It could be that you're following chronological order. So that means the events that happen first, second, whatever. It could be order of importance in your paragraph. It could be order of least importance. It could be any steps that you need to follow. Some sort of logical order. So I want you to get out Creating Coherent Paragraphs, page 81. Your page says Creating Coherent Paragraphs at the top of your page. It's page 81 from your writing section. We're going to start it together. Okay, so your instructions say that you have paragraphs that are incoherent. They don't have the sentences in the correct order. So you need to identify what those sentences are, and you need to rewrite the paragraph so that the sentences are in correct logical order. You are allowed to add things, maybe add transitions if you would like, but you cannot take away from the paragraph. You may add things, but you can't take away from the paragraph. All the sentences have to be in that paragraph. So we're going to work through this one together. You can add things, you can make it your own if you would like. If you feel like it still needs a little something else to make it more clear, you may do that. I'm just going to do the minimum for you. And you're going to be rewriting this paragraph in the space at the bottom, as well as the second paragraph, which you're going to do all on your own. You will also rewrite that one at the space on the bottom. Okay, so let's read this together. Robert Frost became famous as a poet of rural New England. That means that it was an area away from the city. Rural means away from the city. However, Frost was actually born in San Francisco, California. He worked unsuccessfully as a school teacher and as a chicken farmer. In 1884, at the age of 10, Frost moved to the East, where he spent the rest of his youth and young adulthood. Discouraged, Frost moved to England with his family in 1912. In 1915, he returned to America, where publishers were finally ready to print his books. His first two collections of poetry were published in England in 1913 and 1914 and were praised by British critics. Okay, so looking at this, what kind of order should our paragraph follow? Should it be order of importance? Is it following a process? Or is it chronological order, so in order by time of events happening? That's right, it's chronological order because we're talking about somebody's life, so the years that are going on, so that would be an order of time. So our order is a little mixed up. Our sentences are talking about things that happened before the last sentence and stuff like that. So our order is a little mixed up. There are two sentences that if we switch their location will make our order a lot more logical. So let's look back at the beginning. Robert Frost became famous as a poet of rural New England. That one's fine. It's kind of a topic sentence. However, Frost was actually born in San Francisco, California. Okay, that flows. So it talks about where he's from, but where he was actually born. So that's his beginning. So we can't get earlier than that. He worked unsuccessfully as a school teacher and a chicken farmer. So that implies that he's an adult. But the very next sentence says, in 1884, at the age of 10, Frost moved to the East. So we go from him being born to being an adult to being a child. So we've just gone forwards and then backwards. That doesn't make any sense, right? So that means this sentence right here is out of order. It really needs to come before, this sentence. He worked unsuccessfully as a school teacher and a chicken farmer. So you need to switch those two. All right, there's another one. So let's keep going. Discouraged, Frost moved to England with his family in 1912. Okay, why is he discouraged? Well, he's discouraged because of the last sentence. He worked unsuccessfully as a school teacher and as a chicken farmer. So it makes sense, again, that we would need to switch these two so that the sentence about working unsuccessfully comes right before him being discouraged. So then we have in 1915, he returned to America. But the sentence after that talks about the years 1913 and 1914. So we go from 1912 forward to 1915, backward to 1913 and 1914. So we need to switch this sentence with this one so that we go from 1912 to 1913 and 1914 to 1915. So we're going in order. So your new paragraph would look like this. Robert Frost became famous as a poet of rural New England. However, Frost was actually born in San Francisco, California. In 1884, at the age of 10, Frost moved to the East where he spent the rest of his youth and young adulthood. He worked unsuccessfully as a school teacher and as a chicken farmer. Discouraged, Frost moved to England with his family in 1912. His first two collections of poetry were published in England in 1913 and 14 and were praised by British critics. In 1915, he returned to America, where publishers were finally ready to print his books. If you want to add anything to make it seem a little bit clearer to you, go ahead and do that, but that's what the first paragraph should look like. Now it's your turn. You need to finish this page. Finish coherence through logical order, page 81, by doing the same thing that we just did with the first paragraph with the second paragraph. So write the first paragraph on the lines below, then go through the second paragraph, see what you need to switch around, and rewrite it right after your first paragraph. Okay? All right, let me know if you have any questions. Love you guys. Bye.